Good evening. I'm going to be doing a quick video today on being authentic. This has been really on my mind this afternoon for a couple of reasons. And I had a really wonderful session with one of my lovely clients this afternoon, and it just put an absolute massive smile on my face thinking about her, and just thinking about how much change has happened for her, and what happens with all of my clients when they reach a level of authenticity, when they are able to really start being comfortable with themselves and living a life that is really true to them. This isn't necessarily the exact story of my client, but there's been a lot of change, and today in her I just saw a real shift. A lot's happened for her over the last couple of weeks, and it just made me absolutely delighted for her. And then I went to the park and I was thinking about, what really makes me smile is, as I say, when I see this change in my clients and in my friends and in myself, when we are able to be really just comfortable with who we are. And the term being authentic is quite a popular buzzword at the moment. You kind of see it in the magazines, you hear it on TV or on the radio, podcasts. And I just was at the park earlier just thinking there's just something so great about it, though. There's something so great when we learn to accept ourselves as being flawed people and stop chasing perfection and stop trying to be the perfect wife or mother or friend, and just actually accept that we are who we are. And as a term that I've used in previous videos before, perfectly flawed. And to kind of embrace that and to be okay with that. And then what does that mean for you? And then what does that mean for others around you? I think there's something inherently trustworthy about somebody who is able to embrace their strengths. I mean, it's not about putting yourself down all the time, but being able to embrace your strengths, but equally embrace your flaws, and being able to be really both comfortable with that and confident with that, and this is crucially, understand that you are still worthy of love and acceptance, even though you are not perfect. And that can be really tricky. That can be really, really tricky. And that's something that I speak about with a lot of my clients, is about how we are all, actually a long session with a client last night talking about exactly this, when it's okay to be okay with your flaws, but then obviously there's a tipping point. There's always a tipping point, good and bad, of then just kind of like going into self-loathing. And so when I have a client where I'm working with them and there is a degree of real kind of dislike for themselves, then that's when the work gets really interesting. So this whole thing about being in balance with our strengths and our flaws, but crucially being okay with it, is kind of about being authentic, and it's about living with confidence and living with happiness within yourself, even though that's how you feel. And as I said, there's something very trustworthy about somebody who is authentic. For anybody who is looking for looking to change something within themselves, any kind of like personal development, you going to somebody who is really authentic is very empowering. So it makes me think about, it makes me think about my role as a therapeutic coach, but it also thinks about my role when I was going through the learning journey myself, and a couple of therapists that I had along the way, and one in particular, who was a fabulous guy, near to where I live, and just, having just some really real conversations about him embracing his flaws and being okay with that. And that was kind of like the very first insight that I ever had of somebody, like really being okay with not being perfect. But more than that, finding strength in that imperfection and really being able to use that as something that gave him leverage as a counsellor and a therapist, something that he embraced, and took that on board as his story. And ultimately, when you are able to do that, you're talking about forgiveness of yourself for not being perfect. And I can remember being so struck by that, and so in awe of him, really. Not like he's the first person in the world that I've ever met that's kind of like owned their baggage or owned their problems or difficulties. But I suppose he was the first person where I'd been vulnerable myself in speaking about my flaws and my difficulties. And that's the beauty of a therapeutic space, is that you're able to do that. And know that you are loved at the same time. And that's you get well, you should be getting that in any counselling session, I would hope, and or any coaching, because coaching is very similar to counselling. It's all about being held and supported to grow and develop. There's also something there about faith and families of faith, not just like nuclear families of faith, but like church families where you look at your extended family or your extended network in whatever your place of worship is, and the acceptance that there again should come with that, as well. Going very off tangent here, but yeah, it's just about kind of acknowledging that when we live as our true selves, without any without being pretentious, without any expectation on ourselves, of ourselves, or what we think other people think of us, and we are just able to behave in a way that is totally true to us, just wonderful things happen, because it comes from a place of within. It comes from a place of honesty, and that creates a great feeling within yourself, but creates a real sense of security for those around you who understand that they can also be accepted as themselves, and they don't need to be anyone other than their true self to be loved and accepted too, because that's what this is all about. This is all about saying, I am worthy of love and acceptance, even though I am flawed. And if we can all come at it from that place, then life becomes a lot more humble. But it's not as easy as that, because a lot of people come from a place where, okay, so arguably some people don't see their flaws at all, but a lot of people really do see their flaws and really only ever concentrate on the flaws and not on the positives, not of their strength of character. So it's a very delicate balance, but it's a balance that is very important. So when I think about my client that I was working with this afternoon, and just what a great turnaround she's had. it was just on her face. Like you could just see this real lightness in her face, and this weight was just lifted off her shoulders. Just because she'd made a decision that she'd acted on that has been a very difficult decision for her to make, but was the right decision to make. And so, when I was thinking earlier about, what is it about authenticity? What is it about what makes us, what makes us real in that moment? It wasn't just about the fact that she is now living a life or beginning to build a life for herself that's real to her. It was also hearing her talk about, the mistakes that she's made and things that she's got wrong, and just how honest she was in that moment. And it was very beautiful. It was a very beautiful moment. So what do we need to be in order to be authentic? Well, we need to be honest and we need to be real. And that needs to be both in terms of being kind to yourself and realistic. So, in proportion with your strengths and your flaws. It's also about living a life that is conscious, living in the moment. Again, a bit of another kind of like cliche one, but without any expectation of self or others, just taking life at face value. And I think, to be honest with you, over lockdown, I think everybody's had a piece of that. I feel like a lot of people have become a lot more humble about who they are, about the life that they live, and just about what we want and what we need and how we want to go about living that life. The things that used to be really important 6 months ago suddenly really don't seem to be that important anymore. Being kind and being respectful to others is really about being a reflection of yourself. And when you're kind and respectful to yourself and you're kind and respectful to others, that is a cycle that kind of continues. That's the reflection. Be the reflection that you want to see in others. So be kind, be respectful, and others will hopefully, not always, unfortunately, but always be kind and respectful to you. And then so that grows, and so that then emanates outwards, which is lovely. And being emotionally intelligent. So it's like being kind and being respectful, but also having a really good sense of how your behaviour impacts on others, and understanding that we all have a part to play in our families, in our relationships, and in the community and in the wider world. So, regardless of whether it's how you're talking to your child or how you're talking to your partner or what you're saying on a random page on Facebook, just understand how it's going to be interpreted by others, and watch the ripple effect of that. I'm a very mindful parent. I don't get it right all the time. Absolutely, definitely don't get it right all the time. But I do try really hard to be a really mindful parent, as I do a mindful friend and wife and everything else. But when we treat our children with respect and we treat them kindly, then that's what they learn from us. And teaching them emotional intelligence is part of that process. And so we need to be able to model that too. And that's not about being a perfect parent or a perfect wife or a perfect friend. It's about being able to acknowledge how we might have upset somebody else, how we might have hurt somebody else, how we might have delivered our words wrong, and being accountable for that and acknowledging that. Being accountable for the things that we do wrong is probably more important than acknowledging the things that we do right, to be honest with you, because we all do things wrong. But it's only when we acknowledge them that we are then able to learn from them and teach others. So that probably should have come earlier on, actually, being accountable, because being accountable means can mean a couple of different things, I suppose. But in this instance of being authentic, it's about doing what you're going to say and then acknowledging when you've got it wrong and addressing that so that you can learn from it and so that your loved ones around you can learn from it too. So there we are. I hope that was a little bit interesting. As I said, I was just inspired by her, and it really got me thinking about, what it means to live an authentic life. So please do drop me any other ideas of any other videos. Hello, and thank you to everybody who has been watching. I appreciate you taking the time. I'm really sorry if you've just joined us now. But if there's anything that you would like me to talk about, or you've got any comments about anything that I've said, then as always, please do drop me a message. And I look forward to catching up with you guys soon. Take care.